There are two basic approaches to playing chords. One way is to play open position chords. You've learned three of these so far: E minor, C, and D. Also, I want to mention something that I forgot when I taught you these chords. When you're practicing them, as you're learning them, be sure that every string sounds. So the E minor, every string was ringing fine. Same with the C and the D. Regardless of whether you're interested in playing hard rock or folk music, these chords are necessary, but they're more prevalent in acoustic music than aggressive metal. They're called open position chords because they include open strings, as I explained in a previous lesson. The other method of playing chords is bar chords. One shape moves up and down the neck, with the index finger forming a bar. So this is your bar, and you form a chord in front of it. And by changing your fingering here, you can make it major, lift this finger, minor, seventh, minor seventh, and each one of these can be moved up and down the neck to give you 12 different chords in different keys, or even beyond that. These are extension of power chords. It's very similar to the power chords, were just 2 or 3 strings, and they got their name from the note on the 6th string. This is an A note, so this is an A power chord. Well, same thing with bar chords. This is an A note, the root note on the 6th string, and this is an A major bar chord. When I play power chords, I normally fret the entire bar chord, and for example, I'm playing a G major bar chord. If I want to play the power chord, I'll just play the 6th and 5th string, or the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, but fret the entire bar. That way, if I happen to accidentally hit a wrong string, of course, that would never happen to me, but in the offhand chance that it did, it's in key and in tune. Whereas if you're playing a power chord and you happen to hit the wrong string, it doesn't sound good. If I had the bar there, it sound fine, sound in tune, in key. Here's how to play the E minor open position that you already learned. Here's how to play it as a bar chord. Here's how to play a C open chord, C bar chord, D open chord, D bar chord. You can tell by the appearance that the shape of my fingering is quite different for each open chord, yet it remains the same for most bar chords. So the open chords, I have to keep changing fingering, and the bar chords just same shape up and down the neck. You're probably thinking, wow, that looks easy. Let's get started with bar chords. Yes, it's easy to remember one shape and move it up and down the neck. The problem is the technique is more difficult to master. Over the next few lessons, we'll gradually learn the technique to comfortably play these chords. However, you're anxious to get started right now. And even if I don't explain the basics, you'll be attempting this on your own. So, as long as you're going to be playing around with these chords, let's do it right. Notice that I'm actually playing with the side of my finger. You must learn to position it very straight. Beginners tend to curve it like this, and when you curve it like that, some of the strings aren't clamped down. There's a little bit of a space there. So first, you've got to learn to hold your, you've got to learn to position your first finger very straight. Then there is a slight twisting motion between the bar and the thumb. This creates leverage so the bar clamps to the string without the need for strength or squeezing between the first finger and thumb. I'm not squeezing, I'm using this twisting motion that I'm explaining. Next, begin placing fingers in front of the bar to form chords. So here's your bar. Try just placing one finger on the, my bar is on the 5th fret. Place your ring finger, the 3rd finger, on the 5th string, 7th fret, and try to play this. That is an A minor 7th chord. It's a good first chord to start playing for bar chords. Exercise 1 is from my speed and accuracy course. The program is designed to radically improve both speed and accuracy. I'm integrating all of these exercises into the complete basic course. One thing very cool about this is all of these exercises are from the scale, so you can instantly begin using them to improvise leads. Many fingering exercises aid dexterity, but they're not musical. All of the speed and accuracy exercises are musical. Each note in this exercise is an 8th note triplet. There are 3 triplets for each beat. Begin this one at 50 beats per minute and see how fast you can learn to play it over the next few weeks. Picking speed is accomplished by gradually moving the metronome up a notch or 2 each week. Repetition is the key. Try to devote at least 5 minutes of your practice time to this exercise each day. It's also an exercise that needs to be reviewed as you move forward in the course. This is a fundamental. You should keep a record of your progress with this exercise. Record beats per minute each time that you practice. Here's exercise 1. There are primarily 2 different types of rhythm guitar, riff-based and chord-based songs. Here's a riff. Probably never heard that before, have you? Riffs are a combination of chords and notes that don't necessarily follow the lead vocal. A good riff is distinctive and often the most memorable part of a song. The other type of song is chord-based. The chords complement the lead vocal or melody of the song. As the melody changes, the chords change. Even riff-based songs usually include a chorus based on chord changes instead of the riff. Songs that we've learned so far, like Onward and Almost There, are chord-based. Riffing It Up from last week is, yes, riff-based. The chord-based songs that we've learned so far are very laid back. That's only because the tempo is slow, so they can be played by you, a beginning guitarist. Chord progressions are often used in the chorus of even the heaviest songs, so don't think chords are just for ballads. Exercise 2 is called Don't Believe It. As you'll see, it's a riff. Here's something that's extremely important, so pay close attention. Beginners often have a tendency to tug at the strings, which pulls them out of tune like this. Not a pretty sound. If your chords sound out of tune, there's a good chance that this is the problem. This also occurs when playing single notes. It's very easy as you're playing like the scale. Instead of playing solidly and right down on each note, to bend the string just a little bit, making it sound out of tune. Sound like that? That's the problem. You're bending the strings as you're playing them. And you're obviously going to be able to hear that as you're playing. Sometimes you just think that your guitar's out of tune. Well, your guitar might not be out of tune, it's you pulling the strings out of tune. You should record a video of your playing at least weekly. When you do, obviously listen to your playing to hear if it sounds clean and in tune, but also look closely at your technique to be sure that you're not slightly bending strings out of tune. This can be the difference between you sounding like a beginner and a pro. If you're still finding it difficult to play clean sounding notes, the problem may have to do with your guitar. It's quite possible that you need thinner strings or that the strings need to be lowered so they're closer to the fretboard. To find out if your strings are too high above the frets, take a quarter and slide it under the thickest string at the 5th fret. It should just fit between the fret and string with little or no space between the quarter and the string. Now take a penny and do the same thing on the 1st string, 5th fret. Barely, it should go through. Like on this guitar, it's so tight that it actually raises the string. So there is very little space between the fret and the string, which makes the guitar easy to play. Now, if you do this and you see that there's a big gap with the quarter and or the penny, you need to take your guitar to a professional guitar tech to have it set up. Exercise 4 is the 5th and last pattern of the pentatonic scale. Last week, you were up here. The 5th pattern follows that pattern, the 4th pattern, and it's here. We're going to play it an octave lower down here. Same pattern, just an octave lower. The reason for this is a lot of lead playing takes place around the 5th fret in the 1st pentatonic pattern. So it's very handy to know what's going on down here. You will use this up here, but only when you're extremely in show-off mode. Aside from that, you'll be down here. Remember, all 5 patterns move up and down the neck to change keys. After you play the 5th pattern, the 1st pattern is played, then the 2nd, and so on. So you know the entire neck. I tend to center everything around the 1st pattern because the root note is on the 6th string. If you want to play C minor pentatonic, just move up to the C note in that position. So this is the 1st position or pattern. Here is the 5th right behind it, just like it was in A minor. So here's the 1st pattern, C minor. And then you go to, one up to the second position. Once again, C minor, third position. All of these are in C minor, so these patterns move up and down the neck together to change keys. Now for a review of all 5 patterns in A minor. So now you've learned all 5 patterns. You have mastered the 5 positions of the pentatonic scale. If you've got all 5 memorized, you're way ahead of the game. If you don't have them memorized, don't move on to the next lesson until they are memorized. And just because you've accomplished this, it doesn't mean you're through. You should run through the pentatonic scale using all 5 patterns every time you pick up your guitar. You've accomplished a lot this week. Play around with the bar chord technique, but don't obsess on it. Practice all 5 exercises for at least a total of an hour a day, 5 days a week. Consistent practice is the key to mastering this. Without daily practice, progress will be slow or non-existent. So set aside time every day for consistent practice. See you next week.